Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Similarly Different. On today's episode, I have a friend that I recently met actually on a girls influencer trip. But what she doesn't know is that I was a huge fan of her before I met her, and I've never told her this. We have model, actress, influencer, and now beauty brand founder of Maed Beauty, Denise Vasi here. Aww. I have literally fangirled on the Santa Barbara trip. I was like, oh my God, there she is, because I was such a huge fan of Single Ladies.
Oh my gosh.
Such a huge fan.
I did not know this.
Yes, I was such a huge fan. I binge watched the show. I actually wrote on a Reddit account that it should have been brought back when it got canceled. I was like, you don't understand. I love her character. It was so good. So when I met you, we met at the Frenchie Santa Barbara staycation. Frenchie is a brand owned by Ashley Tisdale. And I just was like, you never know. Obviously, I knew the character on TV. I was like, I don't know how different it's going to be, but I just felt like you give such a calming energy to be around you, and you were just so inviting and welcoming that I'm glad I got to know you so far now for like a year and a half or so.
Aww.
So, yeah.
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And that's hysterical because you're not lying. You never told me that story. I didn't know you watched Single Lady.
Yeah. So I love that I have you here. There's so much to talk about. For those that don't know you, you started modeling. You're from Brooklyn and you went into acting and everything. What I've loved about your story and what I've heard here and there, what I've been able to read and just from talking to you is that you really have never put limitations to you. And I love that because growing up myself, I've always been told what my limitations are, and I've been very rebellious to go against them. And I would love for you just to, give a little synopsis for those that maybe don't know you about who you are, how you started, and then we'll get into everything else in between.
Okay, awesome. First of all, I would say as a young girl, I think many of us are really kind of put in boxes and told how far we could go or what's possible and what's not. And I was raised by a single mom who was like, go out there and just put your head down and do the work. And as long as you are the hardest working person in the room, and as long as you are kind and humble, you will always win. You will always come out on top. And so thanks to my mom, I really carried that with me throughout my life. So as you said, I started modeling. I was very young. I was signed by Eileen Ford at 12 years old. And represented by Ford for, way over a decade, I guess. And at some point, they realized I wasn't going to get tall. And during those times, you didn't see girls who were 5'6", 5'5", modeling, doing major campaigns, because it was just the industry was so different. And you had to be 5'9" to do anything fashion-wise. And so they brought me in and said, okay, we really need you to focus on beauty because you don't need to be tall and you could still be very successful in that category. And so I was like, okay, let's do it, right? So we worked on changing my looks, my book, to really cater to the industry. And I was already a fan of beauty because I spent a lot of time with my grandma because my mom's a single mom and so she was working. And my grandmother is just beauty obsessed to this day. Like she still wakes up every day at 85 years old and fills in her eyebrows. You do not go outside without eyebrows.
I love that.
So it really felt natural for me to be on set, being with glam teams that were like some of the best glam artists in the world, shooting whether it was L'Oreal or MAC, Bobbi Brown. Like I was fortunate enough to be the face of several different hair care, makeup, and skincare brands. And that was kind of my first introduction to beauty on that side of kind of like on the production side and how things are created and marketed. And then I transitioned to acting. So coming back to the limitations, I would say when I was signed, I was one of the very few mixed girls at the time.
Right.
Boards were very blonde hair, blue-eyed, or girls were very black. Naomi Campbell, deeper skin, melanated, beautiful skin. But the girls in between were kind of confusing for marketers at that time. And it was just about the time when things were going to switch. Things were getting there where they started to see the value of having somebody who was ethnically ambiguous. But I was like right in between that moment. And I would go on castings and they'd say, well, she's not white and she's not Latina, like the average Latina looking girl, and she's not Black enough. And mind you, I was all these things because I'm so mixed. And I really had to learn how to listen to my bookers about what they were what the brand was casting, and kind of switch up my look depending on what we thought they might want to see when I walked in the room, making sure my book was very diverse. And I heard a lot of no's because I didn't fit in the box. And I just learned that was like kind of the beginning of like, okay, how do I take a no and turn it into something positive? How do I like just thicken up my skin? Right. And so I had to learn that really young. And then the transition into acting was hard because it was, again, just a different industry. And it was like, you're a model, you don't talk, you kind of like are this canvas where everybody comes in and creates and you sit and pose.
You're anonymous.
Yeah. And I wanted to do something else. Like that was fun, and I got to travel, and it was such an incredible experience. As a little girl from Brooklyn, it was unlike anything else my friends or I had seen. But I wanted something else. I wanted to have an opinion, and I wanted to show a personality. And so I transitioned into acting, which at the time was like, yeah, you can't do that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do it. And it took a while because I had to learn, I had to study, I had to learn to change my dialect because I had a very Brooklyn accent, and which you still hear sometimes, especially according to my husband when I am mad or drunk. And so everything was about, okay, here's a challenge, how can I overcome it? And I just kind of kept doing that. And then cut to after Single Ladies, like you mentioned, I was married, we had our first child, and I didn't know that I was going to stay home that first year and a half because I was like, oh, I got to get back on set. But then I held my kid and was like, oh, no one's allowed to touch my child, like barely my husband. So like I couldn't come to grips with handing my child over or having her be raised on set. And that was kind of where we all started to understand that like what we were sharing on social could actually be turned into a business, right? Like we could create partnerships with brands to talk about products we liked. And so I transitioned into the digital space really organically. But I always wanted to create product. I always was in love with makeup and getting dressed up. And those were my favorite parts about being on set. Actually being the center of attention or being on a red carpet was not my thing, but I loved product. And so slowly, little by little, like I grew a community. I talked to them about what they wanted to see. I talked to them about, obviously, like my red lip was what I was known for on TV and what they felt they were missing. And then I finally just like said, you know what, this is something I want to do. My 2 kids are in school, like it's now or never.
Right. Now, with the modeling and everything, I could relate to it because I grew up modeling as well. And then I went into hosting. And for me, it was like, when they hire you for a host for a show, they want you to look a certain way. And I remember I auditioned for 106 in Park, and they were like, you're not urban enough. But then I auditioned for E, and they were like, you're a little too spicy for us. Like, we need you to look a little bit more double down. And I was like, oh my God. And then when I would go to an American, like more a straight and narrow type show, they would be like, I don't know if your look really matches the rest of the cast. So it's something that I always said, I've always been in the middle, never enough. And it's something I think as women, whether we look physically a type of way, or we have different ethnicities, or we have different mixes inside of us, we deal with it a lot. And more than none, I feel that there is that feeling out there, but it's not talked about enough. And when I heard you talk about it in an interview recently, I was like, a lot of the times when I'm sharing this feeling to people, they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, does anybody else feel this way? Because I grew up you have to work harder to be able to prove to people that you belong in the room. And I always say character over talent, I think has been able to make me get to the places that I have been, because people can be talented, but are you a warm feeling to be around? Are you a hard worker? Are you a complainer? And some people may be like, yeah, well, I've had to work double. And I'm like, I'm actually proud that I've had to work double, because I'm proud of everything I've achieved. And I know that what I have achieved, I really earned it, and it was never given to me.
I earned it. Absolutely.
Yes. And I love that you shared that. And then when I went into your, another thing about women is that we are so multifaceted. not only in our ability to do things, but also in our talents that we have. And I love that you went from modeling to acting, but as well, you went from a young girl to a young woman to seeing success to then saying, I kind of want to step into motherhood right now and take a step back. And you obviously had the privilege to be able to do that and experience that. But did you ever go through postpartum while, you mentioned that you didn't like the idea of somebody else touching your child. So what would you say that was your version of postpartum in that as well? On this week's episode, we talk about different seasons we go through as women. I'm here to remind you that you can go after that dream career, start that business idea, expand your income and knowledge this year. National University is here to help, and I'm thankful for having them as a sponsor for Similarly Different. NU's programs are designed for people juggling multiple responsibilities. Their flexible 4- and 8-week online courses make pursuing your education achievable. Just like in Denise's story, we all have different things that can be pulling us left and right. That doesn't mean that your dreams and goals need to be forgotten. Learn more about NU and their scholarship opportunities in the link in my bio. And now, back to the episode.
Postpartum is such a sensitive topic, and it is actually a chemical imbalance that happens for women. And I would say, I want to be super respectful for those who have experienced it. It wasn't necessarily postpartum, but it was my own version that each woman goes through when they have a child, of like figuring out who they are as a mom.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't know. I really thought I was going to have this kid and then be right back on a set. I didn't even think about it, actually. My husband and my best friend of what must be now like 30 years said, you never know, you might just want to stay home. Just only those two of them. Everyone else thought, like, just as Denise says, she's going to do exactly what she did. She's going to have this kid. She's going to get back on a show. I would look at them and go, that's so silly. All I've done is work my entire life. I didn't know anything else but working. And, I couldn't imagine not like sitting home all day and playing with a kid. That seemed odd to me at the time. But then you have a child and everything about you changes, and you are not prepared for this new woman that you are. And as you get older, you'll see, like, I'm sure you've experienced yourself, right? We're constantly evolving and changing, and you're like, wow, I never thought I would do that. And
Right.
Here I am, going against all the things I said in the past, because I've changed, I've grown, I'm older, I'm wiser, I've experienced more, my priorities have changed. And that was what happened. Like, I had my kid, and my first kid, and I was just like, wow, this is such a precious moment. And I'd been working for so long, nonstop, right? So you think about, I was signed at 12. I've been working a long time. And I was like, if there's ever a moment to press pause and take time to really be present and enjoy something in my life, it's this moment right now. And then again, it was that moment when I had my son. And I could have never guessed that that's who I would have become. But ultimately, it led to this grander shift.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it led to me figuring out something else about my life, and also approaching fear completely differently and approaching my goals differently. Because now when I do things and I accomplish things, it's always first and foremost for me, because it's got to make sense for me. Like, this idea of filling your cup first is very, very true. And you realize that more than ever after like that first year of motherhood. But everything that I do after it being for me is for my kids to see. I want to make sure that my daughter and son know that mom and hopefully dad, but dad, my husband definitely like have gone after everything that they wanted in life. It doesn't mean everything was a win. It doesn't mean like everything's super successful. You're always going to get what you want. But I want them to know, like, I worked towards doing things that people told me were impossible, or that nobody would partner with me on, or that, I didn't have the education to do, or I didn't have the experience to do, but that through hard work and through resilience, I pursued and completed them.
Yeah, and that fear didn't stop you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important, because when I look at the people that I admire in my life, or that I find inspiration from when I'm doubting myself, I look for that. And I'm like, what experiences have I seen them gone through? And I resonate with that. Did you ever, while giving yourself grace and time to take a step back and take care of your daughter, say, am I making the wrong decision? Like, was there like, you know, you're taking care of your daughter. It's 3 months in, 6 months in, maybe it's 9 months in. And you're like, or did you give yourself that grace from the get of like, no, this feels right. And I'm just going to lean on this.
Honestly, it was so organic and blissful. It just really was. I was not the girl who was, I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna have 2 kids. I was never that girl. So, and not that there's anything wrong with that girl, it just wasn't a part of my narrative, the story that I had built in my head, right? But obviously the universe, God, whoever you believe in, has other plans for you. And it just kind of happened. Like it just happened. I just enjoyed being with her all the time. And what was great was, thanks to social media, eventually I figured out how I could still storytell, which is what I love, how I could still enjoy my love for beauty and product. And also we could share what we were doing in our home that was beneficial to other parents. So if you have followed me, you know, like I had the kids at home, which seems so totally normal now, but back in 2014 when I was on Instagram talking about having a home birth, people were like, what's wrong with you? And, you know, I definitely feel like I helped normalize that, talking about breastfeeding. It's like on Instagram, breastfeeding my daughter in the church. Why? Because my kid needs to eat and God knows that, and that's okay, right? So it's like everything kind of just happened really organically, and everything, you know, with Maed as a brand first, as the community grew, and, you know, as I created the online platform, it just happened and it felt right. And I'm one of those people who gut checks a lot. I really trust my intuition. I come from a family of women who are like my brujas. My husband says, you're all witches. You guys just know, you know? And after a couple of years of being married, he stopped second guessing me and would just be like, I need you to come to this meeting and tell me what you think. Should I partner with these people?
Right.
Because my intuition is really, really clean and on point, and everything just kind of just felt natural. I never felt like I was missing out on anything. But again, I had worked so long in my life that it really felt like that this was the time to take that break.
I also say in the podcast a lot that I lead with, if I make a decision and I feel peace with it, then I move with it. And it seems like every time that you have made a decision or you've like checked your intuition, if you felt like the flow and the peace of it, you just led with it. And I think that that's something that's really important, because a lot of the times we go to others for advice, and listen, there's always room to grow and we don't always know everything, but a lot of the times if we just take a moment to silence the noise and we just look within, we'll have the answer and the peace to be able to move forward with whatever it is, whether it's, you know, staying at home or going and auditioning for something or taking that leap of faith. And I remember I was looking at your Instagram when I was following you, when you got the news that you were able to join the Sephora program, and the tears and everything. And I want to know, when did the red lip, when was it born? Was it on set when you were a teenager? Was it as an actress? This is the first time I tried it, and that's when the idea, not the idea for the brand, but the idea for it, this makes me feel powerful.
Yeah, so I was helping the team, the glam team for single ladies, kind of design what Raquel would look like and what her character trademarks would be and what her fashion choices would be. And so the red lip originated from there. It originated with me wearing a mixed lip. We would mix a color, and that was kind of her signature. But it was like a part of me that I was bringing to the character. So you saw it on TV with Raquel, and then you saw it on Denise at that time on red carpets and interviews and stuff like that. And that's actually how long ago the idea for the product came out, because during that time, so it's a red liquid lipstick, right? And so the formulas, especially then, were not as sophisticated. They were not clean. So they were drying my lip. We'd put it on and put it off. My joke was I was making out with a new guy every 2 days, which was, you know, part of, for those of you who don't know, Single Ladies was like your BIPOC version of Sex in the City.
It was so good.
And I was Carrie, and there were lots of dudes. And so I was just like, first of all, this formula needs to be better. What's in here isn't great. It's really drying on the lip, and you can't have a camera in your face 17 hours a day and have like peely dry lips. And so I was doing all the things at home, and I was mixing things, and I was creating things, and I was using products that were for your face, under eyes, on my lips, and some things worked and some things burned me, and there were some definite bad situations as well. But during that era, I realized, wow, there really isn't a luxury elevated start to finish lip care system, right? Everything is kind of very, at that time was just very basic Betty, was kind of young and just like little girlish. And I wanted something that had real ingredients, skincare focused ingredients that would actually not only, make my lips look great, like things that sit on top of our lips make our lips look great. Ingredients that penetrate the lip skin barrier actually help our lips look better over time. So I wanted something that was really focused on lip health, and there just wasn't anything like that. So I kind of sat with that from, 2013 to 2019.
Wow.
And then in 2019, I started looking for someone to help me learn how to create. Like I had this whole idea. I had some ingredients I wanted to use. I had the idea of like this 3-step system, the exfoliation process, but also a lip serum, like a true lip serum that was like a treatment, just the same
And I'm
way.
literally obsessed with it.
Oh, yay.
That
makes me
you
so
can
happy.
wear it just morning, night, throughout the day. I have 3 of them. So I have one in my gym bag, I have one in my day purse, and I have one next to my bed so that at all times I could just put it on.
I love that.
Yes.
Thank you.
So good.
So I was looking for somebody, and at the time, people were didn't really get it. Like, why would anybody invest in something like this? Or why would anybody, someone said, why would anybody spend more than like $4 on a chapstick? I'm like, because it's not a chapstick, and you should not be using a chapstick when you're a grown individual who has all these beautiful other skincare products and all these beautiful fashion accessories, and then you're like using this chapstick on, like you need something better. And so finally in 2021, I found a product developer who was really interested in the concept, and we started to develop like the first samples. And during that time, during the course of 2021 and 2022, we saw the boom of the lip care category. And then all of a sudden, everybody was obsessed with lips, which was really beautiful to see. One, because I always remind other founders, like there's no Pepsi without Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
In my meetings with my team, we don't refer to other beauty brands as competitors. I always say, I teach everyone when they're new onboarding to the team, these are our peers in the space. Like, we don't have a space if someone else isn't making a product.
Right.
When they're talking about their version and we're talking about our version, the portion of people we're talking to the same is this much. Then there's so many different people like we're also talking to. Like there's so much space for everybody, and everybody has their own formulation, their own branding, their
voice.
Their voice, right, exactly. And so it was beautiful to see these other brands open up that space and kind of lead a little trail for us to really come in with a very different concept, but with a community of people who were like really ready for that. And we saw that happen in 2022. I kept on pushing the formulas. It was really important to me that like our lip balm was really, really different, that the experience was fully sensorial. Like I want you to feel like you want to like put it on, right? I wanted the applicator to have that metal gold cold tip so that it felt like a gua sha or a massage that you were giving yourself.
I also like that it's a little bit wider, because I feel like a lot of lip products, when you see the applicator, it's cute and it's slanted as well, and a lot of them are clear, but there's so little. And then you're just like trying to do it, whether you have small lips or not, or big lips, it just feels nicer when it's covering in one application.
I love that you said that, because that was a big note for me when I was going through the packaging stage, which was I felt I have a fuller lip. And so I remember how many times I used a product that had that slanted little applicator, and I'd get in the car and I'd turn over to my husband, say something. He's like, you've got like half your gloss on. And I'd be like, what? And I'd look in the mirror and my bow wouldn't be covered because I need to really come up. But then the product's coming out of the center. And so if it's slanted, it's not spreading the product. So for me, I also was thinking about like women of color. We have fuller lips. We need applicators that really are focused on our shaped lips, on our fullness. So you see that with the balm, and also with the red lip applicator, that it has this like indentation so it hugs the lip so you get that one swipe coverage. And then, the pointed part where you can kind of define your bow and your lip lines. So I really took a lot of that into consideration. And because of that, it took a while to get to launch, but I'm glad that I did, because my whole joke was, if I have to sit on 20,000 units of product, I will love this product, and it will, it will be everything that I love, because I need it to be. And nothing is ever perfect, and a strong founder knows, like, you get it at least 85% there. It's never going to be 100, but I wouldn't compromise on several things, which was, the packaging, flavor, having something that was like elevated, something that felt chic when you pulled it out of your bag, right? Like, you have this beautiful, expensive bag. You've worked like 6 months or all year on, and like when you pull out your lip balm, I wanted it to be like a statement, just like the earrings you're wearing or your necklace or your bracelet. And so finding all those little pieces and putting them together and getting the formula where we wanted it to be, and really having actives that really would help your lip barrier and the function of your lips took time. But yes, and so come 2023, at the end of 2023, I applied for the Sephora Accelerate program. They had over 800 applications. They chose 8 brands, and Maed was one of the brands. So it was a very exciting and emotional moment for me, because I'm a manifester and I believe strongly in manifestation. And once I finally got my application, like pressed go on my application, I could just see them telling me we were in. And I would be driving my daughter to school, and those who follow me on social know that's a very long drive that I do to get her there. And I literally would hear her saying it, and I don't know who she was, but I would hear her saying it, and the day of, it was exactly like that. And so I was like just completely overwhelmed by it, that it had came true. And it's such an incredible, once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm so grateful for Sephora and their support.
And then I remember when I saw the news and them telling you, because you were able to record it and everything, and then you telling your daughter, which was so beautiful. And I think a lot of the times the beauty of social media, which I always tell people, one thing can help you do another. So the fact that you have a community helps you than just you coming out as a celebrity that has a great career from the history with no connection to their community. And when you were able even to take everyone on the journey, I'll never forget, she would post like every few days, like 15 shades of red. And it's like some had orange tones, some had other. She's like, I don't know, guys, like I'm kind of like, they're all looking the same to me, but they're all looking different. Which one do you like? And she would do a poll. And I was like, I love that she's including people, because it really makes it, and I always, when it comes to marketing, I always compare everything to marketing, because music marketing, because I have a background in it. And it's like an artist being founded by the audience and being put in the success level by the audience, and the audience carrying it. And I thought it was so beautiful, because you really were asking for your audience to help you create this baby of yours, rather than saying, I did this and look what I did, and even the hardships of you posting at times, the amount of hours you would spend, or when you had to redo certain decks and you're like, guys, I don't know if we're gonna make the deadline. I just think that a lot of beauty of social media could be how transparent founders and companies can show of the process of it, because it's not a night and day thing. And sometimes the ideas that we have, people think that they just happened overnight or they happen within one day. And you're talking about this since 2014. We're in 2025, so it was like a whole 10 year before you launched. And I think that also goes to show to people that if you have that little inkling in your mind of an idea, of a passion, of a concept, don't let it die out. If anything, just keep investigating, keep learning, keep tapping into that curiosity, because you never know what it might blossom into. And what started off as just a character lip for a show has literally blossomed into your third baby. That can now have such an infinite amount of success, longevity, and beautiful moments that are going to make people outside of yourself feel powerfulness, feel luscious, feel beautiful, that, you tried to embody in the beginning of the character of Raquel. So I think it's something really beautiful that sometimes, I don't remember if it was you or somebody else, that sometimes we forget the accomplishments that we had and the things that we've done throughout our life because so much time has passed. So I just want to remind you that, you know, everything that you have done and that you have created is actually blossoming to even further beyond yourself. Obviously, it's something that you can pass down to your daughter, which is beautiful. But it's even more than that. It's so many people from one product can now feel seen, can feel like it's like a little luscious moment or a moment of they put it on and now they can walk into the room and, you know, have that conference meeting or go for that audition. So I think it's something that a lot of the times as women, we're like, okay, well, I was told, you know, I have a 9 to 5, I've had a career for 15 years. Maybe, you know, I should just be grateful for this. But
I have a kid. That's kind of it with my life. Yeah.
But you started a whole company and you decided to never give up on this idea that you had, and seeing that you burned your lips at some point from trying to make your own mixture. So I think that's beautiful. And I think that it should never go silenced or without being mentioned, because the person that may be hearing it right now could be the first time that they're like, wow, I've never seen somebody like that, or that really didn't stop their dream. You said it, that we have to fill our cup. And a lot of women, once they have a kid, don't.
Yeah, or once they have a partner, sometimes when they have family that needs them. And I just want to say thank you so much for saying all of that. That was so beautifully said, and it means so much to me because I know you mean it. But yeah, you have to like acknowledge all the little steps, because you know, you're only as good as the progress you make, right? So each little step, each little win, you need to celebrate it, because the lows are pretty low, right? You also see me crying on Instagram, frustrated, exhausted. To what you said about being transparent, my whole thing has always been on social that I'm always going to keep it 100. Like, that's just who I am. What is the point of me coming on here and talking to you guys and sharing things if it's not true, right? So it doesn't mean that there aren't things that I keep private for me and my family, but what I'm sharing with you is always going to be like where I'm at. And I agree that when I was first like just kind of tiptoeing into this, I felt like there was so much I didn't know because no one was sharing anything. And at this point on the internet, like, you can be able to find out how to do anything. So it's like, why is this information so hard? Why does it look like things popped up overnight, or, you know, things started, you know, you had a concept and then within a year you had product, and here I was in year 2 saying our formulas weren't good enough for me, they weren't ready, and little by little I found out that, well, that's normal. I says, oh, well, I only see the Instagram version of things, right?
You only see the highlight reel.
Right, exactly. And so it was important for me to share that, because the idea of like going out and chasing a dream, whether you're going to get your real estate license or start a beauty brand while also being a parent, while also being a partner, while also trying to maintain your own self-sanity, right, is hard. And so I didn't want to downplay it like this was so easy. It wasn't. It was literally the hardest thing that I've done in my entire life.
And there's still going to be challenges.
And there's so many more to come. I'm sitting in 12 challenges that are running through my head right now. How are we going to fix this before tomorrow gifting event? But, you know, there's always something. But the little wins are what keeps you going, right? And that's why it's so important, because it's so easy to get caught up in what didn't go right, what, you know, the negative ideas. And the reality is, like, only you know. And then as you grow a team, only they know, okay, guys, we missed that deadline. Okay, but we'll just, you know, push this around, move this social post, change the newsletter date, and it'll come out 2 days later, and no one's going to know but us, right? So just having that mentality, I think, is really important, no matter what it is that you're going after. And, you know, the product is the product. It is definitely, we're in the business of making product and selling it, creating revenue. But for me, everything really ties back to community. And so when I transitioned into digital and I started to grow a community, and I was up late at night breastfeeding my daughter or rocking my son to sleep, and I was sitting in DMs with women who were asking me everything from which shampoo I was using to should I leave my boyfriend. And I realized that my purpose was not just about, you know, sharing what felt right for me, or, you know, what I loved, or how I approached situations, or how I ate, but that my purpose was really about bringing people together. And so the brand gave me the opportunity to do that, right? So we have in real life events, we have virtual events, and
I saw you guys did a dance class as your first official event in New York and then LA.
Yeah, we've done a couple of dance class made moves because I love dance. I love that feeling of letting go and freeing that other personality that is inside all of us. And I wanted to give more women a safe space to do that because, our mission as our brand is to help empower women to feel confident. And it is tied to the lips because they're on our face, but that confidence inside is what's most important, right? So how are we igniting that within our community? So that's what our community events are about. But, I am able to step away and they are talking to each other all the time. Like we have a massive different group chats, LA, New York, the VIP testers, the Maed Beauty girls, and I'm able to step out for 2 weeks and come back and be like, okay, who had what? Oh, somebody's engaged, someone, and we're so connected. And that for me is everything. Like that is what I love to do. Recently, we just celebrated my daughter's birthday. I love to throw a good party. I love to bring her friends together. I love to create experience, and I love to just sit back and enjoy people having a good time. So when it comes to the brand, yes, we make great product, but even more than that, we create amazing community, and that is what really brings me the most joy.
What was the aha moment that you had after being, accepted to the Sephora program and once you launched the brand? What was an aha moment that you had for the brand so far?
I mean, when Sephora invited us to be part of the program, it was definitely an affirmation that my idea, I'm onto something, right? Like they are the biggest global beauty retailer. And so for them to say, we want to basically mentor you to launch you in our stores, it's a very big, affirmation.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of crazy. I remember hanging up and the Zoom and turning around, and my husband had popped a bottle. He was standing outside my office, popped a bottle of champagne, and I was like, shit. Oh my gosh, okay, this is real. And it's getting realer every day as we get closer to that launch. And then for launching our D2C, our .com, I think nothing beats those first 48 hours. I could cry. You're like, oh my God, people are buying it. And then as I've told you, having the support of so many girlfriends just coming out, trying it, sharing it, posting it. There's nothing better. There really is nothing better of I created this and watching other people enjoy it. Whether that's, an event or your product, it is the same biggest moment. So I'm so grateful for those three big moments. Those were my three big aha.
I love that. I think that as your brand grows, we're going to be able to see so much more of everything the red embodies, because I love the ingredients on it. And I know that you're very particular about the ingredients because as it is, you're very clean. Guys, I'm going to just out myself. I did not know that chocolate bars, certain chocolate bars.
We're not going to say their names.
We're not going to say their names. Certain chocolate bars are not real chocolate. But she gave me a whole education about it right before we started because I put a chocolate piece in my mouth and I vow to not eat it anymore, and I will try.
You can eat chocolate, you just got to eat better stuff.
Yes.
Cleaner stuff. I know how hard you work out and how well you take care of yourself.
And I didn't know that one wasn't real chocolate. So now I know. But where did this clean eating, which obviously transcended into even your daughter being vegan and your son being vegan for the first 5 years, and then now even your importance of having clean beauty products in your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So my grandmother, who is a very big influence in my life, had a lot of gut issues her whole life. And when I was younger, she'd go to see herbalists and Chinese medicine doctors and Eastern doctors because the Western doctors were constantly putting her on prescriptions that would cause, this is going to help this, but then 3 months later she had an ulcer from something that she was taking, or it caused some other kind of damage to her body. And so she'd come home and she'd say, I can't have tomatoes anymore. And I'd be like, why you can't have tomatoes? What's wrong with tomatoes, Grandma? And she'd be like, I'm intolerant to them. So that's a word that I feel most of my friends, late 20s, 30s, figured out the difference between an allergy and having a physical or chemical intolerance to it. And I knew that at 8. because of my grandmother, which was like, okay, there's certain things, especially nightshades, that we can eat that, won't necessarily make us break out in a hive, but all of a sudden, like, your stomach doesn't feel great, or you feel sleepy or lethargic, or you have brain fog, right? And so the concept of like what we put in our body, even if it's something as what seamlessly is healthy, like a tomato, could actually not particularly work for your body, right? So it started from a very young age of understanding what I put into my body is, either going to be good or bad, and how do I listen to that intuition of like, how does this make me feel? And then I would say probably I was pretty early on the clean beauty tip. Like, you can find interviews of me talking about clean products like 2011, when things were really crunchy and not as sexy as they are now. Thank goodness that has changed, and that was like my big qualm also with clean beauty. But yeah, I would just say just kind of digging deeper. I got into my yoga practice in my 20s, and then just like looking at things and understanding like our skin is our largest organ and it absorbs everything, right? So, if you can, put filters in your shower.
I love my Jolie filter. And I
So
have it
good,
on
right?
Amazon subscription so that I make sure that I refill it
Good
and
job.
I'm not using it. My friend was like, "Oh, you're supposed to change it?" Because I gifted it to her. And I was like, "You've never changed it?" She's like, "Well, it's been there for like 9 months. It's like maybe like a year refill." It's like, "No, girl, you're supposed to change it every 3 months."
Good thing you educated her on that, right? So it's like, yeah, understanding that, no, you're not going to put something on your body and, immediately get this deathly disease or immediately die, not to be morbid. But over time, especially as women, because, I mean, how many products do we use today? Just on a day-to-day basis. Every little thing counts, and it does add up, and there are things that can change your body and it can change your health. And so it's good to be conscious of that. And I always say everything is about 80-20, and there's a time and a place for everything. By the way, if I'm going on a red carpet right now and a makeup artist is doing my makeup and has a full traditional kit, I don't say no, because I don't wear it every day. So fine, put the traditional makeup on me. I don't want my face sliding.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're going to be under, 25, 50 lights on a red carpet doing interviews. There's always a time and a place for everything. There's always a time and a place for that bar. Just not every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my thing is like, don't eat it every day. If you're like,
Yeah.
hey, I have one when I'm super stressed on a Friday or before I get my period or
Right,
once a month
right.
or whatever, right? Nothing should be infinite in 100. Like, everything for me is 80-20. So like, I have my like 3 or 4 products that are traditional, like my Laura Mercier. They've actually cleaned that formula up, but like my loose powder, no one does it like her. So I
know.
don't change that. That's the one product I
Same.
use every day. I don't use a lot of it, just a little bit under the eyes. So it's not going to do too much damage. But yeah, our products are formulated to EU standards, which, Europe has cleaner standards than we do. They care about their products, and they're regulating what goes into their beauty products a lot more than we do. I mean, I was in 2017 talking to people on, we had articles on Maed or talking on social media and creating posts about food coloring in our kids' candy. That was, almost a decade ago, and now you see that the laws are finally coming around, and legislation is finally paying attention about to do something, because those ingredients in our children's food are just terrible for their brain and their chemical makeup, and so I'm just like believe in an inside out
I love
approach
that.
to everything.
I love that. And I think that we're going to be able to see the brand grow, and we're going to see so many other things that you're going to come out with. And I'm sure other products that are going to.
and shades for our nude
yes.
girls.
Even though I do wear a red lip, I just have to be like ready for the spiciness of it, because it just adds so much more to the spiciness that I already embody.
I love it. Bring on the spice, girl. We love the spice.
Well, I have a question, and my question is, when it comes to the lows that you have gone through, whether it have been through career, mom, or being a beauty founder, what are some things that get you through your lows?
Yeah, great question. I am a big advocate for affirmations. So you'll see that a lot of what I share on social or our newsletter, it's very much implemented in the brand. You'll see quotes and little affirmations. I keep those up in my office. I keep little notes to myself on my mirror and my vanity or on my computer. My pep talks are sometimes as rough as like, get your ish together, girl, and go in there and remember who you are. Sometimes it's like tough love, and sometimes I have to give myself like that moment to cry and be like, this is really freaking hard, but you can do it. Like, you wouldn't be in this place. Like, I just try and remind myself, like, I wouldn't be in this place or going through this challenge if the universe did not think that I could make it through. And I think remembering that we're stronger than the pain and we're stronger than the fear is something that really, really helps. Like, okay, also remembering that, like, I tell myself, like, you're scared because it means something to you, which means like you're gonna work your ass off for it, which means it's going to work. Like that, you just have to get over the fear. You just gotta kind of get over that hump. Once you pass that and you're in it and you're moving in it and you're breathing in it and you're living in it, the joy takes over. So like, just get over that. So yeah, so affirmations, sometimes it's sometimes it's like, a rough pep talk, and sometimes it's a good cry. Yeah. Sometimes you'll see videos of me that I put up on Instagram and I'm like, I had like a therapy session in the car with music and I, just started tearing up, and like, sometimes that's enough to like reset and allow yourself to feel the feelings, because I think the lows can be so low at times. It's so easy. It's so much easier to give up and say, I can't do it. It's so much harder to keep pushing. And so allowing yourself to like feel like I'm allowed to feel this is tough. I'm allowed to feel like I want to quit. And then once you kind of reckon and allow yourself, you give yourself the grace and allow yourself to have those feelings, kind of something just happens and you're like, okay, I got that out of my system, let's go.
Yeah, I always say allow yourself to feel, but don't allow yourself to sulk. Because once you get into that hole in your couch, it's hard for you to get it out, but it's not good for you to harbor. So feel, let it out. I give myself a good cry day, or maybe a good day where I'm just like, I just need a reset and I don't want to talk to anybody. I just need to be by myself, or I need to do self-care things. But then tomorrow we're back on. And also I think silencing that little voice sometimes that wants to speak so loud that it's just limiting beliefs, that it's just, self-doubt, imposter syndrome. It could be maybe something that somebody told you 10 years ago that stuck to you, and now it's like a part of the wrong identity. It's not who you are, but you think it must be. For me, it was growing up in dance. I had to work through so much of like what a dance teacher would tell me that was so negative. But I remember that one time somebody told me, when I would always get nervous to perform, they said, you're getting nervous because you care. The moment you stop caring is when you should be nervous, because that means that you no longer care. But that means that you're about to go on stage and put your heart on the stage, and you will never do bad when you do that.
Never.
So I think even in business, you're nervous because you care. As long as you put that nervousness into the care, you will exude and deliver as best as you can because you care.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that I want to ask you is, for somebody that's applying to the Sephora program, they're a new founder, they're about to launch their brand, or they want to launch a brand. What is one form of advice that you would give them as somebody that went through the program?
Yeah, such a great question. So my advice for anybody who would be applying to Sephora Accelerate would be to really focus in on your differentiation. So there's always room for new products, but there are a lot of products on the market as well. So you have to really convince them, not necessarily that, yes, you're filling a void, but even more so than you're filling a void, that you have something that's different to offer. So that might be something that has to do with your formulation, the way you approach community. It could be, a system or a ritual like I set up, and really focus in on like what makes your brand and your products different than what's already out there. And I think it's very important nowadays, because the beauty space is very populated, to really hone in on innovation and how you approach your community. And those are two very important things. So I think like when you're applying, really focusing on like how you plan to build the brand from a community aspect, and then just like how your brand is different than whatever is out there, or your product is different.
Well, I hope that whoever tuned into this episode, whether it be on audio or video, you were able to get something from it, that you were able to feel inspired, you were able to, maybe reignite that little passion or that little idea that you had, that maybe just the fire went down, whether it be from second guessing yourself, naysayers, other people saying that you can't or that you passed the time. You never pass the time. I can tell you that from my own experience. This podcast was an idea for 6 years and I just kept on. I tried to do it with other people. I tried to do it with other teams and it just kept failing. And I was like, I think I'm supposed to do it by myself. And then it was born. And the same thing with Maed. So you had your own experience, your own journey. Thank you so much for being here, taking time out of your very busy schedule to be here and talk to us and just be such an open book about not only your journey as a beauty founder, but as a woman, as a mom, and as a human, which is so important to be able to connect human to human. So I appreciate you so much for being here. And for anybody that doesn't know, make sure to go get your Maed Beauty products, Maed Beauty, and also follow Denise on all her social platforms. Is there anything else that you want to say before we sign off?
I just want to say thank you so much. I will spend time with you any time of the day. We still need to do dinner and drinks. And I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing for yourself, and I love what you're doing for your community. It is also equally inspiring.
Thank you. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and until next time, bye.